Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine and an old dirt road. Are you ready to go? Live Music Nation podcast. I am with John Spindler, American Vans Entertainment Agency. John, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about your agency, what you do.
So we are a full talent booking agency based out of St. Louis, Missouri. We also have a management side, which is really currently only about one or two artists. But the agency side of booking the talent is around 20 to 30 bands or so. And it's a mixture of cover artists that kind of focus just on the St. Louis area, Midwest, and then about 5 or 6 original artists that travel nationwide also. And those original artists are singer-songwriters, and a couple country acts.
Sure. What was COVID like for your agency? Did you completely shut down, or did you quickly evolve and get some things going?
Destroyed is probably the easiest way to say it. We do a lot of casino buying, and so casino festival fairs, clubs, private events, weddings, everything. And in a matter of basically 2 to 3 days, everything was just shut down. And we were scrambling, but yet at the same time it was like, okay, well, even if we do scramble, there's really nothing we can do about it. If the venues are going to shut down, then it's not like we can sit here and be like, make up ideas or whatever of what to do. So we quickly kind of just, started talking to the artists, and, we realized that the live streaming thing was going to happen pretty quickly. And so, while we were not making any money off of it, and though it's not always about the money, but it's about the artists half the time. And one of the reasons why I got into this is that, I'm a musician at heart, and I always felt like the musician never got a full say in everything that they got to do. And so we quickly advised all the artists or musicians, to do Facebook Live and do Venmo and PayPal and just see, because a lot of them do this for a living. I mean, the other side of it in the cover scene, a lot of them have full-time jobs. So they were still okay. It was more of the artists that just lost everything. Because not only did we lose everything, but they lost all their gigs.
How many of your artists got the PPE loan, the Save Our Stages? How many of them actually got that? Do you know a percentage?
I don't know, but I do know that I got it.
Okay,
I did. Yeah. So I don't know. I know that there were so many, restrictions on getting that Save Our Stages. I mean, just even for me, the talent side of it, where, I had to prove the fact that there were ticket sales on certain events and all these other things. And honestly, that's what saved us by getting that. That and the fact that I have, amazing agents that work for me that were just like, look, we're not going to take a paycheck for a year.
Oh, man.
And if they wouldn't have sat there and said that, I probably would have been crushed, honestly. Yeah. And, the fact that I have those agents that would go to the ends of the earth for me, it means the world to me. And the same with the musicians. A lot of them could have just said, screw it, we're going to run or what have you. But, everybody kind of stuck together overall. And it was, there was a lot of good that came out of the COVID, or I shouldn't say any good came out of COVID, but, good for the agency, meaning, it got us to kind of sit back and think about where we wanted to focus our energy and where we really wanted to go with the company. Because leading up in COVID, we were basically running on all cylinders of just grabbing gigs here and there and everything else. And now it's allowed us to really focus on that and focus on what artists we also want to focus on.
What percentage of your buyers are back to normal, especially casinos and festivals? I know the indoor venues, are they now buying again?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it depends on the state so far. And I'll give a couple different scenarios. So currently, I'm outside of Philadelphia right now. I'm in between dates with Peter Mayer. Uh, Peter Mayer is a lead guitarist for Jimmy Buffett, but then he also has his own solo career. And so, sales where he would normally sell out a show have been like at 75%. Shows that we've been booking that our normal that are not sellouts have been selling out.
Really?
So the areas are very, very different right now. Nobody, and every time I talk to a national talent buyer, at a club, they're all saying the exact same thing. They cannot figure out the consistency. And everybody is trying to just get back to that normalcy, but nobody really knows how to get there, or if it's, we're going to get to that spot yet. I think it's going to just take some time. A lot of the clubs, local clubs, especially around the St. Louis area, Midwest, have returned to full capacity. So, I'd say within the last 30 to 60 days, we've actually returned back to about an 80% normalcy on that. Casinos, I would say, are still around 60%. And again, that really depends on your state. It just depends on the location, because, you've got really strict restrictions in like the Chicago area or New York, but in Oklahoma, they're going full on.
Sure.
So, everything is just inconsistent, and it's just really trying to figure out where it all goes. And of course, the outside shows, this will be the first year where we're actually back to where festivals are planning. And even where we see festivals usually booking a year in advance, right now they're booking, 6 months in advance.
Yeah.
The scope of booking has also changed, because people are, and I think that has to do with a lot of, nobody knew what to do with all these deposits. It was like, I have a deposit for this festival, but am I going to roll it over? Or, I've just lost all this work. I need this deposit to keep going. But, it was, everybody was trying to figure this out together. And that is one nice thing about the entertainment world, is that everybody did try to stick together and work together on everything to find a solution. Sometimes weren't the best solutions, but they, at least we tried to work together on them.
Sure. What are some things that your agency specifically is going to keep in place after COVID that you started doing during COVID? Like your agents working from home, did that work well? Is that working well? Are you going to bring them back in?
No, we did have a home office, which I got rid of. It's funny because we were getting ready to end our lease anyway, and thinking, okay, do we want to look for somewhere different, or do we want to continue? And it was going to end in May of 2020. But, with the shutdown and everything else, and our landlord was actually very, very nice. And she just ended up letting us out of our lease and not worrying about April and May, because we were destroyed. But at the same time, one of my agents actually lived on the East Coast, or she still does. She lives on the East Coast. And, we adapt, feeling better. I saw from food, the overhaste and everything. I just had a baby, so it still work.
Yeah.
At least I should. So
I got you.
And, we've tried to adapt to those, with restrictions and barriers around bands, and even the meet and greets. It's you're just trying to figure out what works best, and what works best to keep artists safe and happy and healthy.
Yeah, I got you. You apparently like beef. You like a good cut of meat. I can tell from the photo behind you.
Yeah, well, this isn't my house.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not even my house, so it's just there it is.
Is that up in the hotel? Are you in the hotel?
No, no, I'm actually staying with one of my friends out here. But that would be actually awesome if it was in the hotel.
Yeah, no, I'm glad they support the beef and ranchers out there. Absolutely, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a little fun, and then we'll get back to the serious. 3 best shows you've ever seen your whole life.
Oh gosh, man, that's a tough one. Yeah. Oh man. So I've been fortunate for, to see so many great shows over the years. And, it always, I always gravitate towards smaller venues,
Okay.
Seeing them up close and personal. And probably one of the best shows I've seen, I'm a huge Steve Gadd fan. I'm a drummer, and he's a drummer. And I saw him in Denver, sitting basically right there in front of his bass drum. That was definitely one of the best shows. And it was right before the shutdown that I saw him. That would have to be, one of the top ones for sure. I'm a big James Taylor fan. He's definitely up there. Just the sound alone was impeccable. Clean, great musicians on stage. He's a great musician, great songwriter, all those things.
Yeah.
This is just, that's a really tough one. Stevie Wonder would have to rank very high too.
All right.
Just, his band and him as a songwriter and musician himself. I mean, best sounding concert probably ever, especially for it being in an arena setting.
Okay. Dead or alive, if you could book for one artist in every venue across the world, who would you want to book for, dead or alive?
Oh man.
And a lot could go into that, because there's probably some artists that you'd want to see but not book for because of their difficulty. Their writer might just be a
oh yeah, I could totally think of about 10 right now that I like, but I don't want to even get
but the one that you would just be proud to book and see see 20 shows in a month. Alison Krauss
is someone I've always enjoyed her music and met her, and she was just like the sweetest person ever, and I mean, and there's so many of them too. She's not even the only one. I mean, honestly, it's funny. I'll just tell a quick story that Peter Mayer, actually, I grew up listening to Peter Mayer's music because he's originally from St. Louis. And he's someone I never thought I would be managing ever. I never thought I'd talk to him on the phone or anything like that, but he called me out of the blue and was like, I'm looking for management and your name keeps coming up and everything. And at the time I was also working with his son, Brendan, on his solo stuff. So, there was kind of a little bit of an in there. But man, he's another guy that I love working for him. He's just so low key, just easy going. I mean, other than, his few requests on food or whatever, but I always give him a hard time on that. He's, vegetarian and everything, but he's just such a nice guy that, you want to work for him.
Sure.
You want everything to be perfect. And, I really feel like Alison would be a lot of the same way. And plus she's doing like some amazing things right now.
Definitely. That it seems like that same personality that you.
Yeah. They're both from the Midwest. Maybe that's part of it. But there's a lot of great artists. It's so hard to kind of decide on that, especially once you meet them and then they're just sweethearts overall.
Let's go back to your career. What was the transition point from musician to agency? How did that happen?
I was living in Tampa, Florida at the time, and I was working on my master's in jazz performance, and got to study with some great drummers, Danny Gottlieb and Steve Davis, to name two of them. And I was working for a contractor down there, and it was kind of like, what am I going to do? And I kind of had this thought that I would teach, that I could go, find a university teaching job, do an adjunct, and then wherever that area was, I could, play too, and
Sure.
gig and do everything else. But then, the college scene kind of changed at that around that time too, where the more the universities were wanting doctorates, and it just became a little bit heavier in competition. And so I had to kind of rethink what I wanted to do. And I was thinking about moving to Nashville, Tennessee, and I ended up actually just moving back to St. Louis, and started my own company, contracting company, where we were providing bands for weddings and corporate stuff. And I knew in my mind that for me to be a musician or to play, I was going to have to be on the road.
Yeah.
There was just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And unless you get one of the great gigs, which there's not a lot out there, you were going to be on either a bus or sitting in a van most of the time, and just kind of trying to get by. And, until you get to that certain level of whoever the artist is that you're touring with gets to that level. And, I just decided that, I kind of like the business side of it. I like booking. I like talking to people. And I also felt like that, musicians weren't getting a fair shot in terms of somebody that actually represented them. There's so many great agents out there, but none of them, or I shouldn't say none of them, I should be very careful. I mean, there's a lot of great agents out there that have musicians' interests, but there's also agents that are just agents.
Yeah.
They never played a musical instrument or not. And for me to know both sides of it, to understand what a musician needs at a location versus also booking that, I really felt like that was a huge advantage for me.
I got you.
And so I just kind of went that direction, and luckily I was able to still keep playing at weddings and clubs and, all those other things. I mean, so 25 years later, here I am.
Traveling on the road with Peter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, something I never thought I'd do.
Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine and an old dirt road, and you're ready to go. To the young artist who is just getting started out there. And we're talking, I specifically, let's talk to 11, 12-year-old John. What's some good and solid advice that you would give a youngster out there looking to get into music?
And first, make sure you love it. Do it for fun. Don't do it because somebody says you have to play guitar or you have to play drums or mom and dad want you to play piano or whatever. Do it because you really, really want to. Yes. And I was fortunate that my dad was a musician. My brother is a great musician, but none of my parents didn't force me to do anything. I wanted to play the drums. I wanted to get, I wanted to learn on my own. And the one regret that I have that my mom asked me to do is she asked me if I wanted to take piano lessons, and I said no. And I eventually learned how to play in college, and can still kind of tinker around or whatever. But I really wish I would have done that, because I think that would have made me kind of more a well-rounded musician. Uh-huh. But other than that, just do it because you love it, and then keep an open mind. So many young people just gravitate towards what's on the radio, or, well, my parents listen to this, so it can't be that great. Well, listen to all of it, engulf yourself in everything from jazz to Motown to rock, pop, everything. I mean, if you look at my Spotify playlist, I mean, it's all over the board. It's, bluegrass, pop rock. I mean, like even, Toto and John Mayer's new album, even Adele's new album, it's all of those things are great overall, but, it's the more you can listen, the more you can engulf yourself in it, the better musician you can be. And, you can hear those things and stuff like that. But yeah, take the time to listen to everything and do it because you love it. And, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to go and get lessons. That's how you learn. And just, one thing that I always wanted to do, and I was very fortunate because my dad did have a band when I was growing up, is I was just around it all the time, with his musician buddies, from setting up to packing up to loading the trailer to, watching the gig. I remember my cousin ended up marrying a drummer, and I was probably in second grade, I think, or third grade, and he would take me down to these clubs in St. Louis, and he would just sit, and he was in this rock band, and he would just sit me right next to him, and like for 4 hours, here's this third grader sitting there, and it's 3 a.m. I should have been at home. Man, what were my parents thinking, right? But I mean, I just would watch everything and just try to take it all in. So, and awesome. kids or even young musicians, kids, whatever, today have so many advantages. You got YouTube, you got Spotify, you can be around music constantly. And there's so many great musicians out there. That's one thing I've noticed with YouTube is that, I didn't have that growing up, and now you see everybody and you're like, whoa, there's really some great players out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. John, thank you so much for your time this morning. I love the stories. Guys, John Spindler, American Bands Agency. I don't know. I think your youthfulness, your energy, anyone would be blessed to have you as a manager or an agent. So thank you for all your expertise.
Appreciate that.
Especially your advice to the youngsters out there. So thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you, John.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Make sure you check out American Bands Entertainment Agency.
Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine.